decades alone among the stars, until an alien woman whispered, "Take me as yours, human." The silence of space was not new to Elias Vey. For 20 years, he had lived with it, breathed it, carried it like a cloak that never grew lighter. Once, long ago, he had been a pilot in the Terran Navy. He had flown in squadrons, laughed with friends, and loved a woman whose voice still echoed in his memory. But wars end, people scatter, and sometimes a man finds himself adrift with no one left to call his own. His ship, the Solace, was small but reliable. It was more home than vessel now, patched and scarred, its hum of engines the only heartbeat he knew. He mined asteroids, traded salvage, mapped uncharted systems. Always moving, always alone. Sometimes, when he looked into the void, Elias wondered if solitude would be his grave. That was before the distress signal. The beginning, the signal. It came faint, buried in static, but undeniably there. A cry for help. Elias almost ignored it. Distress calls were often traps, pirates baiting the desperate. But there was something in the tone, almost musical. He changed course. The signal led him to the wreck of a ship unlike any design he'd ever seen. Its hull shimmered with scales of crystalline alloy, its wings curled like a living creature caught mid-flight. The vessel was dead, drifting. Inside, among the shadows of shattered corridors, he found her. She was tall, her skin faintly luminous, her hair a cascade of silver strands that floated in the weightless air. Her eyes glowed softly, watching him with equal parts fear and wonder. She was injured, pinned beneath debris. For a long moment, Elias only stared. 20 years without hearing a woman's voice, 20 years without seeing eyes look into his with recognition. His throat closed. "Easy," he managed. "I'll get you out." Her voice was soft, melodic. "Human?" He smiled grimly. "Last I checked. The middle, companions in exile." Her name was Serenia. She came from a people Elias had never heard of, a race who traveled the edges of known space, but avoided Terran contact. Her ship had been attacked by raiders, her crew slaughtered, her escape gone awry. She alone had survived. Elias brought her aboard the Solace. He mended her wounds, shared his rations, gave her a cabin long empty. She moved through the halls like a spirit reborn, touching the walls as though memorizing her new world. At first, they spoke little. She recovered in silence, while he kept his distance, wary of asking too much. But loneliness has a way of drawing people together. Over shared meals and long starlit watches, words came. She learned of Earth, of oceans she had never seen, of music he played through the ship's old speakers. He learned of her people's songs, of the way they bound family not through bloodlines but chosen bonds. One night, as the stars wheeled beyond the viewport, she asked, "Why do you live alone, human?" Elias hesitated. "Because everyone I loved is gone, and it's easier to be alone than to lose again." Her eyes softened. "You carry silence like armor, but even armor can break." Time passed. They became a pair, moving in rhythm, unspoken trust forming. She learned the ship's systems, teased him for his stubborn habits, laughed with a sound that filled the empty halls. He taught her old Terran phrases, and she began to call him Eli, with a lilt that warmed something long cold inside him. For the first time in 2 decades, he was not alone. But fate is never still. Raiders came again, tracking her signal, hungry for the prize of a survivor from her people. Elias fought, but their numbers were too great. In the chaos, he thought he would lose her as he had lost everyone before. Yet when the enemy boarded, Serenia stood beside him. Light erupted from her skin, a radiant force that hurled invaders back. Her people's power, hidden, sacred, poured from her veins like fire and song. Together, they drove the raiders into retreat. Afterward, as the silence of victory settled, Elias looked at her with awe. "You could have destroyed them all on your own." She shook her head, trembling.
"No, Eli.
"I could only do it because you stood with me." The revelation. The bond between them deepened. No longer strangers, they moved as halves of the same whole. She filled the silence that had haunted him. He gave her a place when all else was lost. And then, one night, as the ship drifted through a sea of stars, she came to him. Her silver hair shimmered, her markings glowed faintly, and her eyes held a fire that stilled his breath. She stepped close, close enough that he felt the warmth of her. Her voice was low, trembling but certain. "Decades you have lived in emptiness. You carried silence and sorrow. But you are not meant to die alone, Eli. You know what to do." And he froze. 20 years without touch, 20 years without a woman's voice whispering such words. His heart thundered, fear and longing clashing within him. He faltered. "Serena, are you sure?" She took his hand, guiding it to the glow of her skin. "I choose this. I choose you." The moment stretched eternal, fragile, burning. And Elias realized he was no longer a man adrift in silence. He was a man being asked to live again. The ending, a new dawn. From that night forward, they were no longer just companions. They were bonded, not by law or ritual, but by choice. Serena called it the union of souls, a bond stronger than blood. Elias called it love, though the word felt too small for what burned between them. Together, they carved new paths. They fought raiders, mapped uncharted systems, built bridges where their peoples had once built walls. Wherever they went, whispers followed. The story of a human long lost to solitude and the alien woman who had chosen him in defiance of all fear. Years later, when Elias looked back on the man he had been, alone, weary, resigned, he barely recognized him. The silence that had once been his only companion was gone, replaced by laughter, by warmth, by a voice that whispered in the dark, steady and certain, "I choose you." And so it was that decades of solitude ended, not with death, but with a beginning. The stars stretched endless before them, and together, they walked into forever.